Shabbat Shalom. Israel does have a right to defend itself. Tucker Carlson is a
The right is dead, and it's eating itself from within. What used to be a movement for facts and logic,
forget about the disrespect, facts don't care about your feelings,
has devolved into a circular fight squad, leaving a vacuum for the remaining scum to fight over. In this video, we're performing an autopsy on the justified downfall of the right into complete chaos. I'm proposing 3 distinct mechanisms that have led to this collapse. By the end of this, you'll understand why they are losing power, why the intellectuals are being replaced by scavengers, and why their desperate resort to petty culture wars is the final sign of a dying movement. Which brings me to mechanism 1, the irony of the prophet. Let's look at Charlie Kirk. The prophet who fell victim to his own dogma. It's the ultimate irony. He is a man that spent his whole career claiming that some casualties were necessary to maintain the Second Amendment.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun. But I think it's worth it.
Completely oblivious to the fact that he was essentially signing his own death warrant. His assassination in 2025 didn't just spike tensions between the left and right, who were already polarized, it ripped a hole through the right itself. Now, normally you would think that a politically motivated hit would unite a movement. You'd think it would stop the infighting and force everyone to pull in the same direction. Well, clearly nobody could predict the absolute shit show that unfolded right after his passing.
Chaos and horror on a college campus.
Oh my God.
go, run.
The US president has called it a dark moment for America.
The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk dead.
But there's a reason it's a mess. Historically, the US never actually unites during times of tragedy, and that's completely by design.
But enough with the fun and games. It's time for everyone's favorite. Work.
As you'll find out later in this video, the elites
New face filters on Instagram today. This is my favorite one so far.
ruling over the common mongrels, or as normal people call them, people with a net worth under $1 million, desperately need you distracted. Think about it this way. If you're busy fighting over the details of a murder, you won't be looking at the structural changes they're making while you're distracted. Which brings us to the emergence of the modern day Joan of Arc.
Please welcome Turning Point USA CEO and Chair, Erika Kirk.
She didn't just cement the right's fate, she fractured it. The strange media tour and the immediate takeover of TPUSA split the conservatives into 2 bitter camps.
You think he deserved that? Tell that to my 3-year-old daughter. Excuse me.
On one side, you have those justifying her behavior into blatant attempts of capitalizing on her husband's death.
Nothing will ever be enough for the evil in this world.
I'm talking about Trump, Vance, even people like Nicki Minaj, wherever the fuck she came from. On the other side, though, you have people calling out these despicable publicity stunts for exactly what they are.
A young woman with absolutely zero professional qualifications has been inserted at the top of a charity organization that pulled in over $250 million last year, and the media is telling you you have no right to know or to ask anything about her. Her husband was murdered, therefore she has a right to assume the position.
Trump just appointed her to the Air Force Academy Board. You have Candace Owens calling her satanic and unqualified.
You'll have questions or concerns about who Erika Kirk is and why she seems to have lied many times on record. Well, you're Satan, and I'm sorry that you are.
While Trump and Vance tried to sell her as some kind of martyr. The reality is she didn't mourn her husband, she just inherited his franchise. Watching the martyr's wife crumble under the weight of her own grift is the perfect metaphor for the modern right. Family values are dead, only the branding remains. And it just gets worse and more dystopian from here. Now we get to the heavy hitter. The complete derangement of Donald Trump and the betrayal of the people that put him in power. Once upon a time, this guy was the symbol of hope. He was the unapologetic, anti-establishment protector of American values, the man who couldn't be bribed, supposedly. Fast forward to 2026 and he's the perfect case study of how power dilutes judgment. All those promises about America first, lowering your rent and ending the forever wars, abandoned. And then, do you remember the drain the swamp promise?
We are going to Washington, D.C., and we are going to drain the swamp.
Michael Cohen, the president's longtime personal attorney, made millions of dollars by promising access to his client, the president. The companies paid Cohen around $2 million.
Remember when he promised to expose the Epstein files?
Would you declassify the Epstein files? Yeah, I would.
Well, take a look at the reality.
Well, I haven't been overly interested in it. You know, it's a hoax.
He has done nothing but obstruct and delay. We were promised the truth, but all we got is a distraction economy.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. All I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on ending 8 wars, and another one coming pretty soon, I believe.
While social media was busy hunting breadcrumbs and documents that are 90% redacted, Donald Trump was just cranking up the distraction machine.
Nice shot! Why is this redacted?
Another example of this is his promise to close borders, to protect American citizens against violent criminals, and to strengthen the US's resilience against tyranny. Think about that. The world's largest democracy, the flag that symbolizes freedom. And yet, even this promise was just another betrayal. He's not protecting citizens, he's just practicing. He is now using the same tactics and rhetoric from 1941 to justify a paramilitary shift that should make your blood run cold. As a German,
Guten Morgen. Na, did you sleep well?
we are educated to spot these patterns from day one. Anyone who claims to be anti-government while instating a paramilitary mob that answers to no law is lying to you. Let's check the facts. ISIS training programs were gutted down to just 6 to 8 weeks, doubling the number of agents from 10,000 to 22,000. There was a rumor of a measly 47 training days being required for new recruits.
I don't believe in human rights.
Why 47, you may ask? Well, because he's number 47. It's the ultimate ego-driven fucking policy. And after a few months and a few unnecessary casualties, this policy was revoked.
The Trump administration is reportedly changing how it trains recruits.
Having agents rounding up people, shooting American citizens, and ignoring nearly 100 court orders in a singular month isn't securing the border, much less securing American civilization. Hell, Bruce Shapiro argues that the fires are a distraction for ISIS conduct.
I think that these documents were clearly rushed out in an attempt to distract from the ongoing crisis in Minneapolis and the violence by ICE.
This is the establishment of a structure that operates above the law while you're distracted by a TikTok of Trump dancing. Admittedly, I also used one of those in my last videos. He's feeding you old lies about election fraud, weird fake AI videos, and the news that Coke has replaced sugar with cane sugar while building his makeshift dictatorship. And any normal person would think this can't work, but you know what? It worked! It fucking worked! And then there's the final betrayal, Iran and Palestine. While you were looking at the shiny keys he was jingling, he was dialing up the violence to inexcusable war crimes. Allegedly, a felony-ridden criminal is leading the world's most powerful country. And somehow we're supposed to accept this? There are conservatives who actually disdain him. People who see the rot.
Some of the most prominent figures inside the conservative movement here in the United States have broken with President Donald Trump over this war with Iran, some of them even going as far as to say they feel he should be removed from office.
But instead of finding a way to oust the pest they voted into power, they split into 2 groups of idiots. On one side you have the diehard MAGA apologists who would defend them burning the Bill of Rights on live television. On the other, you have these woke right-wingers who think they're liberating the government by doom-scrolling on TikTok and spreading hateful conspiracy theories that change absolutely nothing.
This entire war has been engineered by Israel. Donald Trump has very clearly betrayed the American people. He is very clearly not the commander of the armed forces. Bibi Netanyahu is.
While she's chasing shadows, Shapiro's out here starting a rap career.
Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts.
And reacting to lukewarm political cringe on TikTok.
You know I'm black and you're not. And that's crazy.
Yeah. Nikki, take some notes. I just did this for fun.
So yeah, he managed to sneakily support potential war crimes by a certain government, freely bombing schools and killing an unholy amount of civilians. Why? Because the elites know how to stay in power by dragging the rest of the world into chaos with them. They'll tank the stock market, start a war in the Middle East, and ruin your living conditions just to protect their own skin. This ploy was the ultimate magic trick to make you forget that he likely abused children and protected his mud-stained empire at any cost. Abracadabra, fuck me sideways.
I think it's time for my workout.
And that leads us to the final mechanism, the total cultural fallout that has cemented the right's fragmentation forever. Strong conservative anchors like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, heck, even Russell Brand.
Oh, no, I someone once. After.
Who's out here LARPing as a centrist libertarian.
I'm a tricky little swine, I'm a trickster. I'm a raven, I'm a playful coyote, looking for mischief.
He's being charged with rape and sexual assault, while freely admitting he slept with a 16-year-old while he was 30. These are the same people, by the way, that are telling us to protect our children from the LGBT indoctrination. They're all imploding. Once upon a time, they were the opposition to mainstream media. Now, Shapiro's company has fallen into irrelevance because of dogshit management and internal fallouts. Owens and Shapiro disagreed on the US's support for Israel.
Questions about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful.
She calls him a puppet and pivots into being a full-time conspiracy theorist for the political center. The only thing those two can actually agree on in 2026 is their strong belief that Macron's wife is a man.
We will start from the top here with a photo of Brigitte Macron. Real name, Jean-Michel Trogneau. That person that you are looking at on the right is not a woman.
All of these people have one thing in common. They all became what they despised. This is why their opinions don't matter. They have no morals, no convictions, and that's why the reality is finally catching up with them. Oh, but don't fret, because their replacements have already scrambled to pick up the moldy pieces. Right-wing grift is in again. We've got it's like Based of True who use slurs more often than actual logic.
But we all know that your average Redditor has the IQ of a pit bull, and much like a pit bull, they're functionally retarded LGBT autism. It's literally a subreddit full of gay
Your lack of brain cells makes me want to jump while wearing a leotard with a strap on you. We have channels focusing solely on dunking on the libtards as if we were stuck in a 2016 time capsule. Overt bigotry is now tolerated by YouTube because it sounds smart and sophisticated. But the right, despite all of this, has no guard to stand on because they've been exploited and betrayed by the very people that they voted into power. You aren't what your granddaddies once were. You lack the wit, the actual intelligence, and even the ability to correctly understand or even cite a study. You claim common sense, but you're completely devoid of any. And when you're called out, you panic. You resort to name-calling and discrediting because in the end, you're not better than the ghouls at the top. Keep living in your delusions. Fight your senseless culture wars for your societal overloads while they keep fucking you up the ass without you noticing. And that is exactly where the right is collapsing. I'm done. They think they can lie to you forever, but they're wrong. Subscribe if you're done being lied to. Let's hold them accountable. We've got some work to do.